Let's lift the bonnet here, the rear clam. So let's open up this baby. Hi everybody, how are you? My name is Dan Dulac and welcome back to my channel where I am building a V10 powered Ultima Evolution convertible. If you're new to my channel, first of all, welcome. If you are into customizing, modifying cars through cutting and grinding, welding, brazing, fabrication with lathe work, mill work, 3D printing, CAD design, CNC plasma cutting, custom wiring, custom electronics, laminating using composite material like carbon fiber and Kevlar, you found the right place. This is the right channel for you, so welcome. For those of you who have been following my channel and been around and seen the build progress, welcome back. Thank you for coming back. This is episode number 43, and on this episode, we're going to attack building a set of brand new carbon fiber covers for my rear air boxes. If you remember in the previous episode, I did a lot of cutting on the rear clam to get it to close over the engine. And the last remaining interference point is those rear custom air boxes that I created many moons ago, many episodes ago. So in this episode, we're gonna design in CAD, 3D print some test models, test them on the car, print the final 3D models, and then we're gonna laminate them in carbon fiber with epoxy, get them 2K clear coated, buff, polish, get them on the car. So I can't wait to show you how they turned out. Turned out really nice. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, as I mentioned, I need to create a new airbox lid, or set of lids for the cold air intake boxes that I created many episodes ago. Here on the left-hand side, you can see the original box, and here on the front facing, you can see the new lid I created. Now zooming in up close here, you can see the height difference that I'm after. I'm looking to shave a good 1.5 inch protrusion from the original airbox lid as compared to the new lid that you can see here on the front side. So the lower end of the boxes, those will remain unchanged. I'm just creating a new set of lids here. Again, here pictured on the left-hand side, you can see the new sleek lower design lid that I've created. That should work out really nice. So I'm excited to get these 3D printed, tested on the car, and then we'll laminate them in carbon fiber. All right, guys, with the new design and 3D printed mock-ups, you can see the mock-up here on the lid of the airbox. I've just got it duct taped together here just to give you an idea, but you can see the lid is much lower in shape, and we'll miss the roof line of this rear clam. Pretty good clearance there between the elbow, the new elbow, rectangular elbow that transitions to the tube. And I will put some heat shielding underneath the elbow too. So my plan would be to carbon skin, create some carbon fiber skin over this as well and make it all one piece as you see here. So further minimizing the number of silicone junctions and clamps. So you'd only need one clamp right here, and then this is all one piece. So I think that would work out pretty nicely. A lot of comments on the last video about perhaps upgrading these tubes, these accordion tubes, to maybe a carbon elbow or such. I decided, just given the flexibility and how I'm building this one piece, I do need a flexible joint to allow for some engine shake, given that these are one piece. They'll be all carbon and they'll be fixed. So I think this gives some nice flexibility there. Plus, my intention and design all along was to keep this engine package looking as factory as possible, meaning this is how it looks coming right out of the Huracan and or R8, and I want to preserve as much of the original look as possible. Now obviously the exhaust headers are different, but I did do the heat shielding here that looks very factory, and once this discolors, once it starts to kind of turn a goldish color, you can already see maybe. I can see it with my eye. I don't know if the camera's gonna pick this up. It's some of the hot areas where it's gotten some good heat soak. It's starting to turn a little bit gold here. So over time, this whole thing will turn kind of a goldish color. But in any event, I'm just trying to preserve kind of the OEM look of this, as if I just plucked it out of the original chassis and plucked it and dropped it right into the Ultima chassis. That's the goal here. So for now, I am going to keep these flexible elbows for the aforementioned reasons. With that mock-up complete, let me actually close this lid so I could show you what it looks like. Let me see if I could get the camera in here and show this to you. So hopefully you can see up there the clearance now between the top of the new lid and the rear clam, kind of that body ridge that goes through. So there you can see there's a zoom tight shot, kind of that piece of white tape I have taped on the underside of the clam there. That was the interference point. Now we've got a good ½ inch or so there with the rear clam down. So that was the whole goal, was I didn't want to have to cut the clam there. So a new lid was in order, and there you have it. Let me show you the 3D printed pieces, the final pieces here that I've got on the bench. They're ready for assembly with my little Prusa Mark III printer. My printer bed is only so big, so I had to basically cut these into each side into 5 pieces. This here will be the main airbox piece with the transition from the square rectangular opening to the round opening. And by the way, to ensure flow doesn't get disrupted in this, the surface area or the volume of this rectangle is actually 30% more than the 3¼ inch tube here. So through this transition, this doesn't become a choke point for airflow, which was pretty important. So these are both sides, and what I will do is then affix or JB weld all of these pieces together, and then I will skin them with carbon fiber. I got my roll up here ready to go. I will skin them similar to what I did to the original intake tubes. These are the originals. You remember I put a fair bit of time into designing these tubes, pure carbon fiber, and unfortunately those will not be used. But such it goes with custom car development like this. Kind of try it, fix it, try it. So anyway, we are going to start assembling these. I'm actually going to take the boxes, the lower end of the box, out of the car so I can use it as a frame to set the lids in, glue them up so that they'll set properly, and then we're going to skin both of these boxes here all the way from the lid all the way up to the accordion hose that's in the car. That will look pretty cool, I think. Let's get after it. All right, I picked up some K&N filters, new panel filters for my revised air boxes. Here is a mock-up of what it's looked like. So I basically just 3D printed a cutout, perfect, that I'll glue in here, this little filter plate, and then the filter just sits down in here as you see it. So these panel filters, I did a lot of research on K&N's website looking for the right size to maximize the space I have here in this air box. These are actually out of a 2016 2019 BMW 750 and M550. So the cool thing with this kit is it comes with two and they're mirror images of each other. Here's the other side. So you can see it's perfect for my setup given I have two air boxes that mirror each other. So that is the setup there. These are gonna work great. So all I need to do now, pull this out, you can see, I don't even have this 3D printed panel glued in here yet. You can see it kind of sits nicely in there. It's in two pieces. I'll actually glue it together because my 3D printer plate is pretty small, so I couldn't print all this in one piece, but just a couple of small joints I'll glue, and then we'll glue this in and seal it around the edges, and then this panel just sits nicely right in there with a nice snug fit. So let's finish getting these glued in, built in, then I can put these boxes back in the car, and then we can start to finishing up these lids and putting some carbon fiber skin on these brand new lids, and away we go. So let's do it. All right guys, I'm getting ready to put my first layer of epoxy on these airbox lids over here. Let me show you the process. Very similar to the first time I did this way back many episodes ago when I originally created these carbon fiber skinned airboxes. So let me show you what I'm up to here and about ready to get started. So I have mixed up some high temp epoxy and I put some black pigment in there just so that the base coat here is black, given I'm only gonna do one layer of carbon fiber. I don't want any of this to show through. So what I'll do is lay a thin coat of this black epoxy down, wait for it to get tacky, and then lay down my carbon fiber skin, and then with clear epoxy, put a layer on, wait for it to get tacky, put another layer of epoxy on, tacky, then probably a third coat, and that'll give me plenty to sand, buff, and polish on these things. I've got my carbon fiber sheets cut out. I created a paper template, and these are the sheets that I've got here ready to go that will just lay on top. And what I'm gonna try and do is with the fabric, lay it down and put the joint underneath that you won't see once it's on the car. And then I've got some carbon fiber sleeve that I'm gonna pull over this. That's perfect, and then try to make a nice clean joint here. So most of the joints will be hidden. I'll try to make it look as good as I can, but that's the current plan. Given the cure time and the wait time for some of this is kind of the longer part of the process, just in between coats, waiting for it to set up and so forth. So as you can see, I put just some polyester body filler putty on this, just to fill these seams, sanded it with 60 grit. All the seams, can't feel them anymore, so with the carbon fiber on there, you won't even see any of those seams. It should look pretty good. So far so good with how these are turning out. Next up, some high temp epoxy, and then we're just gonna put the first coat on this, wait for it to get tacky, then start to lay down the carbon fiber. right, we have got these sanded down to 320 grit. Plenty enough scratch for the clear coat to fill. So I'm going to use this stuff. I didn't do this on the original boxes. I just polished the epoxy, but this time I'm going to lay some 2K clear coat down. This is a 2-part clear. It's got a plunger here that you push and then it mixes the product and then you shake it well and spray it on. I've seen a lot of good reviews of this. This is a show quality clear coat, but just through a rattle can. So pretty cool. I'm going to give this a shot on these. These are ready to go. Wiped them down with acetone. So these are ready to spray. And pretty flat overall. You can see there's a few low spots in here, but the main visible area here is this top surface. So I made sure to sand the top surface here really smooth. And there's just a few low spots on this side as well. So I'm gonna set up a little canopy, a little paint booth over here in the garage bay. And that will give me kind of an enclosure to spray this in since it is cold outside. And I've really got no other place to spray this stuff. Definitely be wearing a respirator for this stuff. It's pretty nasty. And some eye protection, some gloves, and we'll spray it in a little spray booth here I'm about to set up. So let's get started. I've got my little paint booth set up here. I just picked up these sidewalls from Amazon. I've had these, use this canopy when I go camping with the family, but I found these sidewalls that go up onto any 10 by 10 canopy. I've got some window cutouts. Normally in the summer I would do this outside. That way I can open those windows and let some fresh air in. But I've only got these covers to paint. Shouldn't get too bad. Certainly wear a respirator and some PPE. Got my light here. Give me some light so I can see what I'm doing. So anyways, we are gonna get to spraying these things. I'm gonna mix the solution here, mix this up good, and we should be good to go. So let's get after it. right, guys, here are the brand new lids, all installed, ready to go. I just put them temporarily, bolted them to the air boxes, but clearly I got to take the lid off to put the air boxes back in the car, and then the lids go back on. So came out pretty good. Again, I printed some new MAF sensor adapters there that I then glued, JB welded right onto the tube here. So those came out really nice. And I think these are good to go. The other thing I did too is I put some sticky foam strip just on the lid to give this a good seal and give it some compression in there. I'll do the same thing on this lid before I put it in there, but we are ready to get these back installed in the car. And the other thing I'm gonna have to do is just lengthen these cutouts just a little bit for that accordion hose, and then this thing will close fully. So let's get back to installing these things back in the car and getting them hooked up. Here's one other thing I decided to do. Given the tight clearance between the bottom of this new lid and the exhaust pipe, even though the exhaust pipes are heat shielded, what I did was create an additional heat shield using some of this DEI heat shield that has the fiberglass in the middle. And then I just took some of this gold tape, covered it, because I didn't want the fiberglass of the edges to show. So I just covered this in gold, and then I'll stick it right to the back of the lid, and that should come out nice and give me some additional heat protection there, right where the exhaust pipe crosses underneath this airbox lid. I'll do the same on the other side, then we can install these puppies. What a mess. I've got myself a proper mess, but guys, I did it. I've got the rear clam completely closed with the intake plenum and my new carbon fiber lids. I had to do some more trimming on the rear clam just for the intake pipes that I'll show you here in a second. But man, I am stoked at how this came out. So let's take a look. All right, here she is. I had to make some additional cutouts here to clear these pipes on both sides, but man, I think that came out looking awesome. I'll show you under the bonnet here in a minute, but just wanted to show you what it looks like from the outside. Got some minor trimming to do, which I'll do when I take this clam off the car, because I've got to still paint the underside. I'm going to insulate the underside. I'm actually going to order some 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch fiberglass rod, and I'm just going to fiberglass that rod underneath here just to give this some support here, and maybe one down the center, and then of course on the other side as well. So that's kind of all finished work. Once I take this off and get the last final little bit of trimming to do here, I want to give a little bit more clearance to that throttle body there to trim, and then there's a couple of spots up around the plenum that is pretty tight, like right here in this area. Just trim that back a little bit, but just very minor tweaking. But man, I think that came out looking awesome. Let me show you the clearance of the new boxes underneath here. show this from the back and you can see how tight it is. Even with those new boxes, I've got just enough clearance up there. About a 1/8 inch, maybe a 1/4 inch gap there above the box. And the same on the other side. You can see the sliver of light there. So that just barely clears, but looks great. Let's lift the bonnet here, the rear clam. By the way, what I'm gonna do on these, I'm gonna cover these up with hexagon grill, but I think I'm gonna leave this one open because I find I'm using it as my hand lever to pull up on this clam. And as a result, I think I'll reinforce around this as well. So let's open up this baby. All right, there we have it. One of the things you're gonna notice is originally my cover was one piece, but I actually decided to cut it here because I didn't have the angle quite right here. So with it 2 pieces now, I've got a little wiggle room in here that I can make some adjustments. So came out pretty nice. I'm really happy with it. Everything's insulated. I've got just enough clearance there over the pipe. Not a lot of room to spare, even with those revised lids. But I think it came out really, really nice. I've got those panel air filters underneath those lids, so I migrated from the conical air filter to the panel filter on those, so that'll be nice. But this engine bay is now 100% complete. It's good to go. I am going to, as I mentioned, I'm going to finish the underside of this clam. I'm obviously going to paint it satin black. I'm going to do some heat insulation over kind of the center section. As I mentioned, some reinforcement ribs on the underside as well, and then paint for the final time. I've also got to repair, close this piece in, the splash guard. So there's a few things I need to do under here still, but that's all easy work. We'll get this clam off, and then I can focus my attention here to the cockpit area. So guys, that's going to be it for this video. There's been a ton going on with the back of this car. I can't wait to turn my attention to the front of this car. A lot less modification, customization on the front, so it should go a lot easier. Famous last words. So guys, until then, we'll see you next time. Well, it's a shame I don't have any use for these. So I guess they're a sacrifice to the custom car gods. Mark it up to learning experience. Rest in peace.